What is up, Buffalo Fanatics? Z-Bot here with you, live on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel on a Monday night. And that, of course, can only mean one thing. It is the smoke break. So good to have you in fresh off the 10th day of Buffalo Bills training camp with a whole hell of a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about in regard to a situation we thought we would be done with until at least this time next year. That is no longer the case. James Cook holding in. Does not practice with the team yesterday, does not practice with the team today. What's next? What's going to happen? How did we get to this point? What's the end game? What's Brandon Beane's move? What's James Cook's move? There's a million angles to dive into. We'll try to dive into as many as we can on this episode of The Smoke Break. We'll also talk about the ever-growing list of injured players on the Buffalo Bills injury report coming out of training camp. It just feels that every day that list gets a bit longer. Is it time to be concerned over which players should we be most concerned about at this time a month from now? Will it be as long as it currently is? So many questions in terms of the Buffalo Bills' health right now as they get set to take on their first preseason game of the year this upcoming weekend as they get set to be featured on Hard Knocks tomorrow evening. The Bills will be on Hard Knocks tomorrow night on HBO. They'll play the Giants in Buffalo on Saturday for their first preseason game. I mean, folks, it's here. It's felt like it's been here for a little while now with the start of training camp. This week is where it starts to feel really real, where we're coming to the end of training camp. That concludes at the end of this week. The Bills kick things off on their Hard Knocks venture starting tomorrow night. They have their first training camp game this upcoming weekend, and then we're off and running as August is here and football is here as well. So good to have you in, as always, on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel for this episode of The Smoke Break. Who is hanging out with me on a Monday? It's Heath is in the building. Koala here as always. David Reed, Cody Benz, get off my lawn. Jesse Gadat is in the building. Let me know where you're hanging out from tonight here on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel. Cameron Hayes comes in saying what up to the Bing Squad. What up to everybody tuning in. As we dive into it, give me your thoughts right off the bat on what you're feeling right now about this James Cook situation. Let me know in the comments your initial reaction, what you think is going to happen, what you think should happen. What are you making of the whole thing? Because this really came out of nowhere. I was not expecting to be doing a stream in the first week of August on James Cook and further drama surrounding the contract. This is where it gets awfully interesting to me. Non-mandatory sessions in the offseason, James Cook doesn't show up, no big deal. Not mandatory, wants a contract. It was a story, but then again, it wasn't, because nothing really to lose for Cook, nothing really to gain on either side. Might as well sit out. Don't risk injury over a session that doesn't mean much, isn't mandatory. Mandatory OTAs come around the corner. James Cook in attendance. He's there. Full participant. And at that time, he had let everyone know that he was also going to be available, ready to go, present, fully participant in the Buffalo Bills training camp, which has been underway for the last couple of weeks now. And to nobody's surprise, he was a man of his word, shows up to training camp 2 weeks ago when things started off. He's been a full participant all the way up until this very moment, where yesterday, James Cook is seen in street clothes, walking around practice, but was not on the injury report. Now, the Buffalo Bills injury list, which we will talk about later on in the show, is so large that you could almost forget at this point who's on it and who isn't. But James Cook was not on that injury list, yet he was not on the practice field. Sunday's practice comes around. James Cook is walking around the field with street clothes on, not participating. And obviously, he's asked about this. Not on the injury list. What's the reasoning behind not being out there if not for an injury? So he is interviewed by Elena Getzenberg of ESPN. And she asked James Cook why he didn't practice today. his answer was a simple one-word answer: business. Reminded us all of Marshawn Lynch's approach to similar questions in a similar circumstance that he was facing during his time with the Seattle Seahawks. His answer: I'm just here so I won't get fined. James Cook solidified that down to a one-word response: business. He was then asked by Elena Getzenberg if he would be practicing tomorrow, which is today. Answered again: business. It was reported that James Cook used the word business 8 different times in being interviewed during Sunday's practice in regard to his participation in practice. What's going on with him? What's the deal? Business, 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 business. And James Cook's been about his business all offseason. It was no shock to anybody when he did not show up to the non-mandatory session. And it should be no shock to anybody that the contract situation still lingers around the Bills and James Cook, because he has made it known. He has made it public, really, as soon as he possibly could. It felt like as soon as the Super Bowl came and went, ushered in James Cook making public comments about the contract situation heading into his 4th year with the Buffalo Bills. We have known that James Cook has essentially been demanding a contract really since the end of the 2024 season, and things have not changed all that much. What did change somewhat drastically, however, was when he did show up to mandatory sessions and made it known that he was going to be available and a full participant in Buffalo Bills training camp. Training camp comes around and he does exactly that. Full participant. He's out on the field. He's looking good. At that point, I think a logical mind would say, all right, I think we don't have much to worry about here. At least that's how I felt. James Cook in attendance for mandatory minicamp, in attendance, full participant for training camp. What's there to worry about here? He's in attendance, he's fully participating, and he seems to know the deck of cards that he currently holds. He knows he's set to make over $5 million this upcoming year. He'll face a litany of fines should he hold out. He wants top dollar, whatever that might be, anywhere between 15 to 20 million seems to be the rumored range. And he knows in order to get that from Buffalo or somebody else, he's going to have to be out on that field. He's going to have a similar season to last year, if not better, in order to really put the exclamation mark on that command, that type of money. He's really going to solidify exactly what he seems to be worth and what others might find him to be worth. If he goes out again this year, near the top of the league again and touchdown scored, another 1,000+ yard season, in all likelihood, James Cook will get paid a significant amount of money by somebody, whether it's the Buffalo Bills or another organization. I mean, all of these things have been known for quite some time now. This is why this happening when it is happening is particularly shocking, because it felt as though this was no longer a worry for the Bills themselves, for us fans, Brandon Beane, and I guess you could say James Cook. Worry about this next year. Let me go out and prove it again. And then next year, I hold the leverage. Cards are in my favor. The deck is in my favor. If I go out again in 2025, ball out, have another great year like I did the previous year, someone's coming to the table with a contract, whether it's where I'm at now or whether I got to go somewhere else. Now, all of a sudden, heading into the 9th practice session for the Buffalo Bills during their training camp period in Rochester, New York, he's not out on the field. Says to reporters it's about business. Monday comes around today here. Another practice comes and goes. James Cook not participating. What happened? Why now? And that is probably the biggest question amongst anything to do with the Buffalo Bills right now. And that is, why is this happening when it's happening? Does it make sense? What's to gain here? What's the play? What's the reasoning behind this? So let's start there. Let's start in asking the question, why now? To me, there's got to be a reason. Something has had to have changed between the mandatory minicamp session and Sunday, August 3rd. What is it that changed? Were the Bills close on a contract, no budging on the end of Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills organization? And is that the reason now, nearly towards the end of training camp, James Cook is holding in? Are they close? Are they far away? To me, the way I look at this you really could look at it any different way. I'm more confused as to why now and what the end game is. What is the goal here? Because the reality of James Cook's situation has not changed. The Bills only have a couple of more practices before training camp is completely done for the year. The Bills only have, I believe, 2 more training camp sessions until they're done. So he misses yesterday, Sunday the 3rd. He misses Monday today, August the 4th. The Bills only have 2 more training camp sessions before it's done and over with. Hard to believe, by the way. It came and gone as fast as you could possibly believe. The Bills practice again on Wednesday and then Thursday, and then training camp's done. They'll have their preseason game against the Giants on Saturday. They'll have a handful of others throughout the month of August. Then the season's here. So why now, and what's the end game? Once again, James Cook's situation has not changed. If he continues to hold in, which, by the way, he can still get fined for this. It's not necessarily a holdout where he's not showing up, similar to what Micah Parsons is doing with the Dallas Cowboys or what we're seeing happening in Washington right now with Terry McLaurin. But it's similar in the sense that both parties, whether they're off the field or on the field, they're not practicing, they're not participating. The Bills can fine him if they want under the CBA for not participating in practice. James Cook's set to make a little over $5 million this upcoming year with only 2 more training camp sessions available to the Buffalo Bills. What is the goal here? Because if we get to the season and James Cook continues to hold out, it's not like he has a $40 million a year contract to play with that he can burn money on a weekly basis and still feel comfortable knowing that he's getting his and he's betting on himself under a safe umbrella, so to speak. Yeah, I'm losing money, but it's in the pursuit of getting more money, and I still have a comfortable amount at my disposal while I'm losing it. I mean, he's going into the year in 2025 set to make a little over $5 million. James Cook misses a month. You know, you go into September and you miss a month of games. I mean, he's probably going to lose a quarter of his contract. Nothing has changed in that regard. The knowledge of losing the amount of money due to him this year has always been on the table. You don't show up, you don't practice, you don't participate in games or whatever, however far along this goes. There are going to be substantial financial penalties for doing so. And I'm trying to wrap my mind around the timing of this whole thing because to me, it only adds up unless there's something in play that we just have no idea about. But what's interesting about that whole situation is that even though we didn't see this coming, the fans, the organization didn't see this coming. Brandon Beane sat down with Jeremy and Joe on WGR this morning, and he said that they did not anticipate a hold-in coming and were not aware of it until shortly before practice started on Sunday, August 3rd. They had no clue. What I find to be really intriguing about that situation is that Brandon Beane said that he's been in constant communication with James Cook's agent. It seems like they've had good communication. I think even James Cook said that earlier in the offseason. He said that the communication has been good. There has been communication, and it's felt like ever since the end of last year, there's been consistent communication. If the communication has been good, if there's been constant communication, how are Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills left in the complete dark over the idea that James Cook could still potentially hold out? How do they have no idea prior to Sunday's practice that this was a potential outcome? And how are they finding out almost at the exact same time that the public found out? What led up until that? What led to that? Did anything drastically change over the last week and a half? To me, it feels like something had to have. But then again, wouldn't Brandon Beane be more cognizant of the potential of something like this happening if something drastic did end up going down over the last couple of weeks? Tom Pelissero has also added multiple times that from his knowledge, at least, he has heard that the Bills and James Cook are not far off on a deal. They're not far off. Whatever that means is up to anybody's interpretation. What does not far off mean? Does that mean $1 million? Does that mean $5 million? And that number, however far off James Cook and the Buffalo Bills are from whatever the number is, clearly is a significant margin, or clearly is significant enough of a margin to result in James Cook being willing to sit out of practice now 2 sessions in a row with 2 more remaining, and really no reason to believe he'll be out there for those 2 either. I mean, you let me know in the chat, are you guys just as confused over this as I am? And does it not feel like there has to be something else in play here that we're just unaware of? Because I don't know what exactly is to gain here from Cook's perspective. This is why I was singing his praises when he came around to deciding to be a full participant rather, in mandatory OTAs and in training camp. I thought it was the best thing that he could possibly do. I thought it was the best move that he could make for himself. Putting my fandom aside, putting the Bills' best interest aside, looking at it from James Cook's perspective, I had always felt that showing up to the mandatory sessions and being a full participant was only going to play in his favor. He wouldn't get fined, he wouldn't lose money, and he would once again be out on the field proving his worth to either the Bills or another organization, to where this time next year, once we get to that point, somebody's going to pay him. And it's going to likely be around the number that he's hoping for, should he prove it yet again. It just felt like he was making all the right moves. Now he's making this move. And I don't know. I'm trying to figure out from his perspective why this is the right move and what the end goal is here. You only have 2 more practices. Is the end goal here to just send another message and then all of a sudden he's back for the beginning of the year? If so, what was to really be gained there? You're still out there when it matters most for the games. Holding out of a couple of training camp practices, is it ideal? Absolutely not. But all that really matters, are you ready, able, and willing to go week 1 and so on? What would be to gain if James Cook does this and then he's just right back out on the field with no contract starting week 1 and heading out through the rest of the season? What was the strategy there? What was the end goal? What was the plan? Who's telling him to do this? Was this his idea? Was this his camp's idea? What's the strategy here? I'm really genuinely trying to figure out, like, if I'm in the room with him, if I'm him or I'm his agent or I'm his team, whatever, what was the conversation had? If they have a whiteboard up on the wall and they're writing out, the strategy here, what's the plan? And what do they hope that culminates into? Obviously, the easy answer would be, we hope this results in a contract. But if they really felt that that was going to be the end result, wouldn't James Cook have been better served to have done this right off the bat? Just not participate in training camp at all? If you really wanted to send that message? Because now you have a conflicting message being sent where you are a full participant. This seems to be going away a little bit. And then all of a sudden it's right back into the limelight. Thrusted right back up into the forefront. It's the number 1 story right now surrounding the Buffalo Bills. And it was starting to feel like it was becoming a sub-headline that would be dealt with this time next year. The Bills still hold the leverage. Would they love to have James Cook out on the field? Yes. Would we love to have him? Yes. Is the Bills offense better with him out there? Absolutely. But in terms of the contract, in terms of the financials, and in terms of who has the overwhelming majority of the power in this situation, it is the Buffalo Bills. They don't owe him a dime more than what he has coming his way this year, a little over $5 million. He can be fined into oblivion for missing practice and, of course, even more so missing games. I don't think Brandon Beane's more likely to rush to the desk and sign a contract because James Cook's pulling this off now. James Cook has made this public and well-known all offseason, and Brandon Beane really hasn't budged. What makes you think all of a sudden now Brandon Beane's going to blink? And Brandon Beane seems to be quite upset about this. Brandon Beane had noted on WGR that he is going into his 9th season as the general manager of the Buffalo Bills. This is the first time in nearly that decade-long tenure with Buffalo that he has ever had a player miss a practice due to a contract situation. First time ever. So no question about it, it's weighing on Brandon Beane. And obviously he would have liked to have avoided this, especially really seeming to have not known it was coming. He would like to have avoided this. There's a reason why it happened. And there's a reason why Brandon Beane hasn't gotten to a number with James Cook that, made this not happen. As much as James Cook has his heels dug in on a number, I'm imagining Brandon Beane does too. And I don't think missing a couple of practices here is really going to swing the pendulum, because the public comments surrounding this whole situation hasn't seemed to swing it much all offseason. What's the play here? What is the move? What's the strategy? And what is the goal? Obviously, the goal is to get the contract, but wasn't this the goal all along? And if that's the case, then why now? Why make this play right now? There's a couple of things that come to my mind. You let me know in the comments what you think. I'm trying to walk this through as if I'm in the room there and what the idea surrounding this whole thing might be. So the way I look at it, James Cook and his team sees, okay, we have 1 week left of training camp. We've already fully participated. If we're ever going to make a statement, if we're ever going to once again reemphasize our demand for a new contract and a certain amount of money within that contract, this is our last-ditch effort to do it for this season. We're going to hold in for the final week of the year, or the final week of training camp. Okay, that's fine. But then again, a month from now, when the Ravens come to town, you start missing those games, you start missing that time, you start missing games. I think the only person losing in this is James Cook. The Bills obviously would love to have him out there. They're not going to be as good offensively without him out there. But if we're talking about who loses the most in this situation, I would have to imagine it's James Cook. With the amount of money coming his way this year, hard to believe you'd be willing to forfeit a game check or multiple game checks without any certainty of your future and with a marginal amount of money being paid to you in comparison to what other guys in the league are making or what he hopes to make. Are they really close? Are Brandon Beane and James Cook really close on a deal? And James Cook and his camp are thinking, hey, we're this close. This is the last opportunity we have to narrow that margin between where we're at and where Beane's at. Because of that, we're going to hold in. We're this close. We have to make one more statement to get even closer and finally ink a deal. So let's hold in. Are they really that close? And if they are that close, is James Cook thinking, hey, a ton of guys on this team have been getting banged up nearly every single practice through the first 2 weeks of training camp here. I don't want to risk further injury. We're going to hold in. We're close. We're this close. I'm not risking myself even further. Let's get this done. Or is it the opposite? Are they a Grand Canyon gap away and James Cook saying, hey, we're not getting any closer on this deal. I thought we'd make progress. We haven't. And because of it, I'm sitting on the sideline. To me, the openness of interpretation here is wide. I mean, you could really interpret this in a multitude of different ways, and I don't think you'd be wrong either way because we don't know much. Hell, we don't know anything. All we do know is that James Cook wants a contract, yet was a full participant in mandatory OTAs and in training camp up until now. Now, all of a sudden, he's not, and we don't know the reason why. We just don't. And based on Brandon Beane's comments, the one who would know more than anybody else, he didn't seem to really understand why either and did not see it coming. Brandon Beane said that they tried to work on a deal with James Cook, but it takes two. He said they've been working on a deal, but it takes two, as if to say he needs the James Cook camp to work with him in order to get the deal done. What does that deal look like? That's the whole thing here. I mean, really, that's what That's what it all comes down to in terms of how you would better interpret what is going on behind the scenes. And I wonder where James Cook where their camp is at, really, because what are they demanding, and how unrealistic or realistic is it? Because if there's still, or I don't know if they ever were, the rumor was that, the money wanted by James Cook was $15 million or more, or potentially Saquon Barkley money, who just reset the market. He's got $36 million guaranteed coming his way, $20.6 million average per year, the most in the entire NFL. But the running back position is interesting in that there are a very few amount of running backs in the NFL currently making top of the market money, or, money in which James Cook is seemingly looking for or rumored to be looking for. Here are your highest paid running backs in the league and what they're making per year. Saquon Barkley, $20.6 million per year. Christian McCaffrey, $19 million per year. Derrick Henry, $15 million per year. Jonathan Taylor, $14 million per year. The list at $15 million ends at 3. If the rumored amount of money in which James Cook is seeking per year is 15, there are 3 players who are currently making that amount or more. All 3 of them are Hall of Fame running backs. One of them just won a Super Bowl in the Offensive Player of the Year and led the entire league in rushing attempts. Christian McCaffrey hurt for the majority of last season. I would venture to believe that the San Francisco 49ers wish they were not paying $19 million per year right now to Christian McCaffrey. And then Derrick Henry, who is reinventing the analog clock when it comes to a running back playing in the NFL. Making this amount of money, playing at that caliber at this age. Derrick Henry is one of the bigger anomalies the position has ever seen. Playing at this level at 30 years old. Derrick Henry is 31 years old and is still playing as well as ever. So you're talking about 3 Hall of Fame running backs making $15 million or more, 2 of which are two of the best players in the entire sport at any position. Christian McCaffrey right up there as well when healthy, but he's just not healthy. And it's not like this is a new thing for Christian McCaffrey, who has dealt with injuries all throughout his career. Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry. The list begins with Saquon and ends with Derrick Henry when it comes to players making $15 million or more at the running back position per year. 3 players. So this idea that Brandon Beane just has to completely cave in and pay James Cook $15 million coming off of an incredible year isn't some status quo run-of-the-mill move that a GM makes. And to me, if that's really what the number is, and if that's what it's going to take, it's hard not to see where Brandon Beane's coming from here, and hard not to lean towards siding on that end of the fence. Because if you're demanding that much money, you look at what is being paid at the position, and you look at who's making that amount, what caliber of a player they are, and what they've been throughout their entire career. I mean, Saquon Barkley has been consistently great. Christian McCaffrey, despite the injuries, consistently great. Derrick Henry, consistently great. All 3 Hall of Famers. James Cook's going into his 4th year. He had 2 pretty good years, his first and second year, and last year is really where he rose to the top, leading the league in touchdowns and another 1,000-yard year. He's been great in terms of yards per carry, but in terms of the amount that he has touched the ball per game, considering the amount of touchdowns he had the first 2 seasons, especially when compared to last year, James Cook does not have the body of work that those 3 running backs do. And yet the rumor seems to be that is what it's going to take to get a deal done with him. And I think it's almost, I feel like from their perspective, he's being told to wait things out until that amount of money hits the table. Then I can't imagine that's sound advice. That amount of money is just not being shelled out to the position unless you are considered to be generational, unless you basically already have a bronze bust waiting for you in Canton. And the amount of money falls off a cliff. You have Jonathan Taylor making 14 per year, Alvin Kamara making 12.2, Josh Jacobs making 12. I mean, right now, you only have 6 running backs. There are 6 running backs in the league that are making $12 million or more. That's it, 6. So where is the number at? And how fair is that in comparison to the rest of the market? Now, if Brandon Beane's coming to the table with $8 million a year, then I can understand where James Cook's coming from. We're really not going to budge off of that. We're not going to budge off of $8 million. Ashton Genty hasn't played it down in the NFL. He's about to make just shy of $9 million per year. We're not going to come off of 8. But if Brandon Beane's at the table with 10 and James Cook's not willing to sign it and is willing to go as far as to hold in during practice, then this is where I'm confused. Right now, it's hard to make a judgment on either side because we just don't know what the details are. But I was always under the impression that they were really not all that close on a contract. Hearing Tom Pelissero say that it's felt from what he's known that they've been somewhat close for a while now. Well, I would love to know what that means. I would love to know what that number is, how far off they are on that number, and whether or not it's Brandon Beane trying to be noticeably cheap or whether it's James Cook trying to be getting an amount of money that just does not seem fathomable for 99% of the players playing the position. But what's changed? Has anything changed? And this is why I think when people will take one side of the fence or the other here, they'll just lock in. No, get rid of James Cook, trade him. This is ridiculous. I don't want to deal with the contract situation. We don't need him. We have Josh Allen. Then there's other people. Oh, just pay James Cook whatever he wants. $15 million. It's nothing. It'll look like nothing a couple of years from now. Pay him. I've never found myself to lock in on either side. This is one of those situations where I think that meeting in the middle is the most plausible for both ends. I really do. I don't know where James Cook in that camp gets off thinking that they're going to make $15 million plus when almost no one else in the league is other than 3 future Hall of Famers. And I don't know where Brandon Beane would get off thinking that he's going to be able to get James Cook for a middle of the pack contract after putting together multiple 1,000-yard years, averaging nearly 5 yards per carry, scoring 20-plus touchdowns last year. This is where you talk about those two ends of the spectrum and you meet in the middle, and I feel like there is certainly a middle ground to be had here. So how far away are they from that middle ground, and what's keeping them from getting there? And what is that middle ground? You know, unlike other situations where we've known in the past people holding out, you know, what they've been offered or what the potential rumored number is that has been on the table, we really don't know anything about this. I mean, we really don't know what the rumored financials are that have been offered. We know what the rumored desirable amount or desired amount is for James Cook, and even that we don't have solidified. But why now, and what is the goal of the process here is really where my mind is at. I think it's got to be safe to assume that we don't see James Cook out there on Wednesday or Thursday this week during practice. Would that not be safe to assume? If you hold out Sunday and Monday, what would be the point of going in there Wednesday and Thursday without a new deal? I can't see it. But then again, you get into September. I mean, these financial penalties, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I were him. I'm just looking at it from my perspective. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I don't have any future guarantees. I have no future quarterback, or I have no future contract. And I'm losing a ton of money every second of the day here. This is why, once again, I don't think James Cook does this unless something has changed, whether good or bad. And I've said this before. This scenario to me is one of those rare scenarios in sports where I feel like both sides of this contract dispute are, in the right to some degree. The running back position is so seldomly paid. It's so hard to get your fair market value because oftentimes teams just resort to going with another guy as opposed to paying the guy they currently have. James Cook's coming off of a terrific year, leading the league in touchdowns. Easily the second best weapon the Bills have on this team outside of Josh Allen. He's trying to use that momentum to get paid. On the other end of things, Brandon Beane's side of things, he's looking at who's getting paid what at this position. You got the 3 Hall of Famers making $15 million or more. You only have 3 other guys making 12 or more. You've only had 3 years with James Cook thus far, and the 2024 season, despite being terrific, was certainly the outlier. I don't think it's unreasonable at all if you're Brandon Beane to want to see another year in year 4 before committing that type of money. Anywhere 12 or north. To think that it's unreasonable to want to see another year of James Cook behind this stout offensive line alongside Josh Allen. To think that that's unfair or just a wild desire, to me, is that just doesn't make any sense. Oddly enough, this is why, once again, I think meeting a middle ground here, everybody wins, and if they don't, everybody loses. James Cook's going to lose in this situation if he doesn't play. The Bills are going to lose in this situation if he doesn't play. And I think the middle ground is so logical here. And I saw somebody mention this, and I wanted to bring this up because it's such a great point. And I think that this has a lot to do with a situation like this. Where was it? Someone brought up quarterbacks. Yeah. Stacy, thank you. Stacy goes, you got bum-ass quarterbacks making $50 million a year. The league is, she's saying the league is colluded not to pay running backs. Listen, I don't know if that's the case, but the league has certainly made it known that the value in which they place on the running back is not nearly as high as they place on the quarterback position, the wide receiver position, the defensive tackle position. That's known. This is where it gets odd to me if you're a player, and where I kind of understand the logic behind wanting max money, even though from the general perspective, the GM's perspective, the fan base's perspective, basically the league in totality, it just doesn't add up. You look at the quarterback position, and you got Dak Prescott making $60 million. You got Brock Purdy right up there towards the top of the league. You got Tua Tagovailoa up there towards the top of the league. Trevor Lawrence up there towards the top of the league. I mean, right now, what Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are getting paid seems free compared to what some of these other quarterbacks are getting paid, and the amount of money that is almost directly aligned with those guys. So if you're a running back and you're seeing mid-level talent getting paid as if they are elite level talent at the quarterback position, just because they're next up, I understand feeling as though, hey, I'm better than mid-level talent. I might not be a Hall of Fame talent yet, but I'm better than mid-level talent. I'm next up. I had a great year last year. Why don't I get the top amount of money like running back or like quarterback does, like a defensive edge does? I get it. And it's weird because there's really no logical response other than that's just the way the league is. It's the way the cookie crumbles in the league. These other positions, it's a crapshoot. Whereas with quarterback, it comes down to 2 things. You're either not good enough to the point where a team is comfortable in moving off of you and trying their luck with somebody else, whether that be in the draft or a veteran. You're just not good enough to comfortably keep around, and you feel comfortable in moving off and trying something else because you just don't think that it could be much worse than what you currently have. Or you don't feel comfortable moving off what you have, despite the fact that it's not the best in the league, or really like not particularly great. It's good, but it's just not that next level. And this is where it gets so hard. There's so many running backs, and most offenses aren't predicated on the running back solely. We all know that the NFL goes through the quarterback. If you have a good quarterback, in all likelihood, you have a good team. The better the quarterback you have, the better hands your franchise is in for the foreseeable future, the better chance you have to succeed, not only in the regular season, but beyond. And even though you might have a quarterback that it's obvious isn't going to win a Super Bowl, you have a quarterback that could, in all likelihood, have you competing for a playoff spot. And what would we rather have? A quarterback keeping us in the playoff hunt, or moving off from that guy, getting another quarterback that could easily have us in the bottom of the league? And this is why I think a lot of these organizations get terrified of the idea of moving off of a guy that's been good enough up until this point to have them competitive, but not good enough up until this point to have them rise to the top of the league. Because the fall off from being competitive it's awful. But the problem with being competitive with a guy who's making $55+ million a year at the position is you're kind of trapped with average, mediocre, or maybe good play for a while, but nothing that's going to compete with what's genuinely getting it done at the top right now. And so you see quarterbacks next up in line. Hey, I know I haven't really earned this amount of money yet, but hey, I got you cornered. And that's the unique aspect of the quarterback position. They really do have you cornered. If you're good enough, you're going to get paid. And that doesn't mean when I say good enough, that doesn't mean you're good enough to be in the MVP race. You're good enough to have your team as a top 10 favorite to win the Super Bowl this upcoming year. I'm talking good enough to have your team more than likely in the running for a winning record, fighting for your division and a playoff spot. That's really the bar right now, because it's so hard to find that caliber of quarterback in the league. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, they're not growing on trees. And there's a reason why you look and fight for years and years to find those guys. And once you do, you never let them go, and you maximize on the time in which they are in that organization. The Bills, it took the Bills nearly a quarter century to go from Jim Kelly to Josh Allen. It took them nearly a quarter century to find another talent that you were comfortable leading your organization for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I'm looking at the amount of organizations within that time period that still haven't figured it out. The Cleveland Browns, my entire life, never figured it out. Chicago Bears, my entire life, never figured it out. So many of these teams incapable of figuring it out and would do anything to figure it out. So a lot of times when a team gets a guy that seems just good enough, you got to roll with it, because the opposite end of that could be what nobody wants to be, and that's just drafting in the top 5 to 10 every year, not competing, being an underdog every single week in every game you play in. Running back's different. Running back's different because teams can compete at the highest level without the highest level of running back play. I mean, look at what the Kansas City Chiefs have done. The Chiefs have been to 5 Super Bowls and won 3 of them, and they've never had an elite level running back, nor have they ever paid a running back top tier money. Obviously, the Eagles, the outlier last year, but the Eagles won the Super Bowl against Tom Brady with a backup quarterback, and they weren't paying running back at the time an infinite amount of money. When Tom Brady won the Super Bowl with the Bucs, I mean, they had a running back by committee. More often than not, at least in the modern day now, where it's never been more prevalent around the quarterback, you don't need that caliber of running back to win it. And I think that's well aware. I think the GMs are well aware of that. And that's why you've seen the market for that position be suppressed as opposed to other areas of the field. You have to pay. You have to get a great quarterback. Once you get the great quarterback, you have to pay him. Once you have a great quarterback, he's got to throw the ball to somebody. And the better off you are in terms of who he has at his disposal, the better off he's going to be, the longer he's going to be that good. You got to pay the wide receiver. And then on the defensive side of the ball, there's been nothing more important in the league than getting after the quarterback and defending the wide receivers. So that's why you see cornerbacks get paid an exorbitant amount of money. And of course, you see defensive linemen get paid an exorbitant amount of money. Every other area of the field, it's a crapshoot as to what they're going to get paid. That's just the way it seems to be, and no more so than the running back position. So I understand the logic behind James Cook wanting to get paid while he feels as though he's coming off of a year in which he deserves to get paid. But there has to be some sort of logic behind the number. And there has to be some sort of reasonable approach here. And I just don't think it's reasonable to come to the table going into your fourth year wanting a contract that would resemble that of Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, and Saquon Barkley. Now, maybe that isn't the case. Maybe it's not. For all we know, maybe the number is far lower than 15 million, like we've been told it's been, and Brandon Beane still won't get close to it. Who knows? We have no clue. But all I know is that right now, this just seems to be an odd time to do this, and I don't quite know what the benefit of it is, unless there is something substantial happening behind the scenes in which James Cook could narrow the gap to get this thing done soon here. Then I don't know. God, wouldn't you love to know what the number is, though? Wouldn't you just love to know what Cook wants, what Beane wants, and then try to formulate a answer from there? Slick Crook saying, come on, bot. Thurman Thomas and James Cook getting paid the same amount. We're in 2025, pay Cook. No, so listen, Brandon Beane wants to pay James Cook. This is the thing that I get confused about. I feel like there's some people who feel like Brandon Beane just does not want to pay James Cook at all, and he's ready to move on. I don't get that impression at all. I get the impression Brandon Beane wants to pay James Cook. I just don't think he wants to pay James Cook, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey money. And I think that that's a fair stance to have. I just think that that is a fair place to be coming from if you're Brandon Beane. I think he wants to pay James Cook. In fact, he's pretty much made it known that we've attempted here, and it takes two to get a deal done. Tom Pelissero also said that they have been close with these contract negotiations, constant communication. So Brandon Beane wants to pay him. Clearly, there's a number coming from James Cook's camp that Brandon Beane just cannot justify. Because if he could, I think this would have been done by now. Like Charles is saying, and I think I agree with this. If Cook's camp would be if Cook's camp would be willing to take 10 mil per year, this deal gets done months ago. I think that 10 mil per year is the perfect middle ground. Right now, every running back in the entire NFL, not named Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, and Saquon Barkley. Every running back in the NFL not named those players is making less than $10 million per year. If you were to pay James Cook $10 million per year today, he would immediately be tied for the seventh highest paid running back in the NFL. Then we could get into fully guaranteed money as well, which could really help change things. It could really swing things in favor of James Cook if that's what he's after. Because the guaranteed money right now, the fully guaranteed money for the running back position is not substantial. It's not great. You only have a handful of guys that are getting significant fully guaranteed money. Saquon Barkley, $36 million guaranteed. Ashton Genty, once again, has not played a snap in the NFL. He's getting nearly $36 million fully guaranteed. But he was also drafted with the Raiders' first pick in the draft and is expected to be the face of the offense for the foreseeable future. He's expected to be their franchise on offense. And he was drafted to be that. High first round pick. But, I'm looking at the fully guaranteed, Jonathan Taylor, despite making $14 million a year, he's making less than $20 million fully guaranteed. So is Alvin Kamara. Josh Jacobs is only getting 12.5 fully guaranteed. If you were to make James Cook a $10 million running back, he would instantly be a top 7 paid running back in the NFL per year. Now, the maximum number I feel like a lot of people have kind of fallen back on, where they would be like, ideally I wouldn't want to touch this number, but if this is what it has to take, so be it, it'd be $12 million, and that would pretty much put him in the top 5. You have Alvin Kamara at $12.25 million per year. So if James Cook, say he were to get $12.25 million, that would make him the 5th highest paid. But the vast majority of the running backs in the NFL currently are making less than $10 million per year. Envy saying, so what are you saying here? Would you give Cook a 4-year, $15 million per year deal right now? No, I don't. That's what you're asking, like $15 million per year. So that would be 4 years, $60 million. Like, I don't think that that's happening. I'd be stunned if we see this all result in a $15 million per year contract for James Cook this offseason. And also, once again, I do think that this upcoming year is so crucial in deciding what that amount of money could be. I think Brandon Beane would be more willing to up that number if we got another great year out of James Cook. We have 3 years from James Cook with one great year. I don't think it's crazy for Brandon Beane to want to see another similar year to last before committing top 3 or so money in the league at the position. James Cook had 16 rushing touchdowns in 2024. He had 2 rushing touchdowns in 2023 and 2 rushing touchdowns in 2022. Never carried the ball more than 237 times. And I think if you look at the $10 million mark and who's making that, for the amount of touches James Cook gets per game, $10 million, I think he's winning there. Because if you get $10 million per year, you're in the realm of guys who are touching the ball a hell of a lot more throughout a given season than you are, yet you're making that same amount of money. I mean, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. I mean, they are the workhorses of their offense. Or at least the vast majority of those listed guys are. James Cook, if you could get $10 million a year with just over 200 carries, I feel like you're winning there. I just thought that we'd be done here. I thought that we would be on to the season and we would worry about this situation this time next year. I'm genuinely shocked that we are talking about this right now. And like I said, it feels like the organization is somewhat shocked about it too. How far is James Cook going to be willing to go on this? How far is he willing to go? Because if you sit out the year, not only do you lose your contract money, but then you're also going to significantly decrease the pool of teams interested in paying you the following year. You have no tape. You took a whole year off. Now, him taking a whole year off seems, I couldn't even fathom that. There's no way. But the precedent is being set right now in a way that's completely different than what it was 2 weeks ago. So who knows? Who knows what 2 weeks ago, when James Cook shows up to training camp, full participant, was there any part of you that thought at this point right now, James Cook would not be practicing due to contract situations? Was there any part of you that thought that James Cook would be holding in just 10 or so days ago? Hell, even 5 days ago. No. So we can't rule out anything at this point. This is a total shock and it's completely out of left field. So we can't rule out anything. Who knows what the strategy is here and how far they're going to be willing to take it. And if the communication was consistent and if it was good or whatever else between Brandon Beane and the agent, then why was it not known? Why were they not made aware? Hey, if we get to August 3rd or hey, we get to the final week of training camp and we're not on this number, my client is going to be holding in. Why did it come out of nowhere and why was everybody so shocked by it? What was the reason? How far away are they? Or how close are they? and what needs to be done. I mean, I think this personally. I think if the number is if the number is truly 15 million a year, then Brandon Beane is going to be doing exactly what he's currently doing, and that is not signing anything and telling the media, hey, we're trying here, but we're just we need the other party in on it with us. Does suck though. I mean, right now, this training camp thus far, I mean, yeah, you've had some great moments where it seems like a lot of these defensive rookies who we're really excited for are really showing up, looking damn good. Keon Coleman looking damn good. A couple of these other, off the bench wide receivers kind of making a name. But man, through training camp thus far here, it's been a whole lot of injuries, and now this. I mean, it's not been a great last couple of weeks here. I mean, it really hasn't. You factor in the whole Maxwell Hairston situation and what felt like a catastrophic injury. You were dealing with that. It was a blessing to hear that it wound up being far less of an injury than many had thought, or many had thought they had interpreted from what they had seen. It feels like the best thing you can get out of camp right now is just the fact that somebody isn't hurt as bad as it could possibly be, which is just not a great place to be. I mean, thus far, the amount of bodies just getting injured, and you throw this on top of it. I mean, it hasn't been the most exciting training camp period in that regard. Other aspects, sure, it has. Those out on the field have given us some stuff to be excited about for sure. But you add this on top of the amount of injuries, in particular, the players in which have suffered injuries. Just feels like there's a bit of a dark cloud right now looming. And that's not what you want the first week of August. Especially when you just did not anticipate it. There's nothing you can do about injuries. That happens, and we're used to that by now. But adding this on top of it, just out of left field. Once again, if James Cook did this 2 weeks ago, or even a month or so ago, if James Cook didn't participate in mandatory OTAs, and then he held out training camp from the beginning, I would have been like, hey, man, he's, as the kids say, standing on business, right? He's putting his money where his mouth is. I mean, he's just not going to give in, and he is going to hold in or hold out until he gets what he finds to be fair. To fully participate all the way up until this point and then just out of nowhere not participate, I don't get it. And it wasn't like he only participated for a couple of days. The Bills only have 2 more practices. He fully participated for like a week and a half. So parents coming in here and saying, OMG, please let him explore a trade. Now, this is something that Brandon Beane could do here. This is something Brandon Beane could do. Brandon Beane could say to James Cook, hey, listen, we've been trying to work on a deal all offseason here. We haven't been able to put pen to paper. We're going to allow you to go out there and seek a trade. Now, here's what could happen if Brandon Beane allows James Cook to go out and seek a trade. Only one of two things. Either he miraculously finds a couple of teams willing to get into a bidding war over him and pay him the amount of money that he'd be comfortable making, willing to sign up for, or he'd go out there and realize, oh, the list of teams willing to pay me $15+ million a year is not nearly as long as I thought it was, or it's non-existent. At the end of the day, the Bills have to agree to make the trade. I don't see the harm in letting James Cook go and seek the trade, because I think more likely than not, James Cook goes out and seeks a trade and he finds out that the amount of money that he might be after isn't going to be put on the table by nearly anybody in the league. In fact, I think he might go out there and find that what the Bills are offering, when you factor in what they are as a team currently, the position they're currently in, and what they're able to potentially achieve in comparison to other teams, the amount of money you're willing to put up, the fact that you were drafted by that team, you're behind a terrific offensive line and an amazing quarterback. You factor all that in, I feel like things might start to look better in Buffalo than they did prior to going and exploring your potential options. And that's the other thing, too. Like, for those who are saying just pay Cook, how many teams would do it? And this is where we might get an answer to that if Brandon Beane were to say to James, hey, we're going to allow you to go seek a trade, go out there and see what's out there, and we'll reconvene once we get an idea of what the market looks like. I mean, ask yourself this. If the Buffalo Bills were to allow James Cook to go and seek a trade, is there really going to be a team out there that's not only going to be willing to pay James Cook the amount of money that he wants, but also give up significant trade assets to acquire him? You're going to have to go all in if you want James Cook and you're another team. You're going to have to go all in. You're going to have to give up either draft capital or current personnel, and you're also going to have to pay him the contract he's looking for. I think if James Cook were to be allowed to go and seek a trade, I feel like it would be noticed pretty quick that the amount of money that he's hoping to get is just not as widely available as it might seem, or he hopes it would be. So it's not a bad idea. But you're getting to that point in the year right now where you got to make that move. Training camp's almost done. Training camp is over on Thursday. So if they're gonna do this, it's got to be done soon here. If you're gonna play the whole go and seek a trade game, well, it's got to be done soon here. I don't want this to end up like a Trey Hendrickson situation, or currently what the Commanders have going on with Terry McLaurin. The Cowboys do this all the time. I'd be stunned if the Commanders don't sign Terry McLaurin. I'd also be stunned if the Cowboys don't sign Micah Parsons, despite the fact that he said he no longer wants to be a Cowboy. I've never seen that. I mean, that's crazy. I don't know what's going to happen there. Honestly, that's wild. There could be something to that. But here's the question you have to ask yourself. It's Monday, August 4th. A month from today, what changes in the James Cook situation? Is anything changed? Is a contract agreement reached? Is he still holding out or in, as it might be? Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Is there going to be a trade opportunity on the horizon? Is he going to be allowed to seek one? Would the Bills entertain one? That's the other thing, too. If you look into the trade, at first it could be a play by Brandon Beane for him to just go and see what the market looks like. Would there actually be a possibility of Brandon Beane taking interest in that trade? I mean, what is happening now has certainly opened up a litany of questions that did not exist a couple of days ago. They might have existed a year from now, but they did not exist in the current iteration of the Buffalo Bills that's getting ready to go and play the 2025 season. All of the stuff currently happening, I anticipated to be happening this time next year. And when James Cook showed up to mandatory OTAs and showed up to training camp, I thought that was pretty much the telltale sign that this is next year's problem, not this year's problem. And now it's going to be the Hard Knocks headline. Hard Knocks starts off tomorrow, and this is going to be the headline. And I know people are like, Hard Knocks needed a story. This is why they're doing it. If you think James Cook and the Buffalo Bills are in some sort of coup to boost the ratings for HBO, you're nuts. If you think James Cook and Brandon Beane have some under the table handshake agreement with HBO so that they can up the ratings to see whether or not James Cook signs a contract, that ain't what's happening. It's got nothing to do with it. Now, of course, is it going to be the main headline of the show now? And is it going to be a juicy element that everybody's tuning in to watch each and every week? Yes. But there's no way in hell that it's being done because of that. I think HBO lucked out here. Imagine though, like Koala saying, "Are you sure?" I'm 99.9% sure, but man, that would be something. Linda coming in. Love you, bot. Thanks for the good vibes. Love back your way, Linda, as well. Appreciate the super chat. Listen, at the end of the day, the vibes are still high. We got Buffalo Bills football starting in about a month from now. The preseason games start up on Saturday, and the Bills are still a hell of a football squad. It's just with these injuries right now, and then adding this on top of it, it's kind of got a sour taste in your mouth right now. JTL coming in. Are you going live for Hard Knocks tomorrow? So that was the initial plan, but I host the NFC West Roundtable every Tuesday night, and I believe that we are live while Hard Knocks is airing. So I think what my plan is going to be is, and I'll keep you updated, it's either going to be going live late tomorrow night, like really late after I get a chance to watch it, or going live Wednesday morning once I get a chance to watch it, and we'll talk about it the next day. So either way, it's going to be after the airing of the episode, whether it's late tomorrow night or early on Wednesday. But rest assured, even though it won't be during the actual airing of the episode, Hard Knocks recap, smoke breaks every week while that's airing. It's just going to be after the show, whether it's either late night or in the morning, or maybe a mix of both. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait. They've already dropped a couple of teaser trailers. There was one they dropped a Tre'Davious White like doing the squirt bottles, spraying water with this young kid, and I just love that. Like, this is little stuff like that I'm looking forward to watching. But now, of course, this is going to be like the big thing you're watching for now. Now, are we going to learn anything? We're going to learn anything about this situation? I don't know. I'd like to. I feel like we know nothing right now. What do we know about it? This is what's it's so hard to talk about it too, because all we know is that Cook wants a contract. They haven't agreed to it. Now he's holding out, and we don't know why. Or he's holding. I gotta get there. He's holding in, and we don't know why. Even though, I mean, what's the difference? I mean, he's there, but he's not. Either way, he's not practicing. All we know is that he wants a contract. They haven't signed it yet. He was ready to go, and now all of a sudden he's not going. I thought for the longest time that they were not really all that close on a contract number. Now we're hearing that they have been close for a while. What does that look like? So many unknown variables in this situation, so it's really hard to know what side you'd lean towards. All I would really need to know is what Brandon Beane has offered him up until this point in order for me to make a decision on what I felt was fair or not in terms of where I'm coming from, how I felt about it. You know, I think that's all any of us would need. If you see what Brandon Beane offered, I think it would allow anybody to make a logical opinion on how they feel about it, one way or the other. But we're obviously not owed that. I mean, what do they care? Yeah, let's link the contract situation so Bot can go on Buffalo Fanatics and give his opinion on it. Yeah. It's kind of the same mentality behind doing this so you could boost HBO's ratings. Like, but how long have they been close? And why? Just once again, I know I've said it 1,000 times, but you can't get over it. Why now? Why now? What has happened between the start of training camp and yesterday to where all of a sudden you go from all in to you're not even out there? Is it not safe to assume that something happened, or is it just nothing at all? And this was the plan all along. I have no clue. Once again, though, if it was the plan all along, you were risking injury the entire time. Look at the amount of guys who have gotten injured during camp. Would James Cook have been willing to risk that injury in pursuit of getting to the final week of training camp and then holding out if this was the plan all along? I don't think so. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So something to me had to have happened. What that is, I don't know. I think it could be one of two things, really. Either they're really close and they've gotten closer recently, and this is the last-ditch effort during training camp here to try and bring the two parties together, or they've widened. The gap between Beane and Cook is widened, and Cook's had enough, and this is the way he's handling it. Now, at the end of the day here, what happens if James Cook's a no-go? What happens here? You know, I will never come on here and say, yeah, no, I'm feeling great about the Ty Johnson, Ray Davis tandem heading into the year without James Cook. Is it nice that you have Ray Davis and Ty Johnson? You have Ty Johnson in third downs. We've seen flashes from Ray Davis. Is it nice? Yeah, I think the Bills have one of the better running back rooms in the league, and they're quite deep in that department, and they have guys who can do a variety of different things. But to think that the Bills' offense would be as good tomorrow as they are 2 days ago with James Cook fully participating is wild to me. James Cook's been averaging just under 5 yards a carry since he's come into the league. He led the league in touchdowns last year, consecutive 1,000-yard years. James Cook has been the most productive offensive player outside of Josh Allen on that side of the ball in terms of the weaponry unit or the star player unit, guys not in the trenches, right? And I know when I say that, the easy response would be, so then why don't you pay him? I would love to pay him. And I also think Brandon Beane would love to pay him. But you also love Khalil Shakir, don't you? If Khalil Shakir were to have come out during contract negotiations and say, I want Justin Jefferson money or Jamar Chase money, would you guys have all been like, yo, just pay him, just pay him? I don't think so. I don't think anybody would have. I find this to be awfully similar. James Cook was terrific last year. But has he done enough to justify commanding a contract similar to the likes of Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry? Especially knowing he hasn't even played the full duration of his rookie season yet, or his rookie contract yet. He has not played out the rookie contract yet. Maybe you'd have a different answer if we were going into year 5 here, but we're going into year 4. Well, I mean, things just got a hell of a lot more interesting. Here I was ready to just kind of coast into the regular season, right? Enjoy some preseason, enjoy Hard Knocks. Now this is one more thing. I mean, we don't know what to expect here. I would just be beyond stunned for him to, for James Cook to approach the year with a mentality of not playing. I don't see how he wins in this situation. But once again, 5 days ago, I would never have thought we'd be sitting here talking about this right now. So I can't rule anything out. Slick Crook coming in. This year's Hard Knocks is going to be really good. I can't wait. Yeah, me either. I'm excited as hell. I can't wait to watch it. Kicks things off tomorrow night. HBO, I think it airs at 9 p.m. And I think it's 4 or 5 episodes. Let me double check how many episodes it is. 4 or 5. Yeah, I can't find it. It's 4 or 5. And then anyway, it kicks off tomorrow, 4 or 5 episodes. It's going to bring us into, what do you have here? Alan was Alan saying 5, right? Thank you, Alan. So 5. I'm stoked. I can't wait. And then maybe all these questions we have, looming around this situation, maybe we'll have some more clarity on some of it. I highly doubt it. Maybe a little bit. Will James Cook be talking? Who knows? I saw today that Bobby Babbage said that he will not be watching Hard Knocks. And what did he say? He will not be watching it. I will not watch Hard Knocks, and I don't want to be on it. Hey, at least he's honest. Embrace it. McDermott and Allen have come around to it. They're embracing it. I think it is kind of funny. That's the defensive mentality. No distractions. We're all in. He wants nothing to do with it. I want everything to do with it, by the way. I can't wait to dive into it. All right. Hour 15 in. Let's talk about the other pressing area surrounding these Buffalo Bills, and that is the injury list. The injury list continues to grow substantially during training camp here. And you're probably sitting there thinking, what else is new? It has felt as though the last handful of years, the Buffalo Bills have had the unfortunate injury bug bite them routinely. And this training camp has resulted in a extensive list of players battling injury. Matt Perino yesterday tweeted out the entire list of players injured for the Sunday Bills practice. And the following players did not practice: Maxwell Hairston, Alec Anderson, Khalil Shakir, Cole Bishop, Curtis Samuel, Dorian Williams, Caden Prather, Shaq Thompson, Taylor Rapp, Cedric Van Pran Granger, Tyler Bass. In a limited capacity, Terrell Bernard, Spencer Brown, Josh Palmer, Reggie Gilliam. And then today you can add to the list Balin Spector as well. I mean, we're in the mid-teens here in terms of guys on this injury list. Right now, the primary concern for me, of course, is Khalil Shakir, especially when you're factoring in now this whole James Cook situation. It would be difficult enough to go into the year not having James Cook, should that end up being what this results in, this hold-in. If that's what it results in, it's going to be a different offense without him. But if this ankle sprain that Khalil Shakir has suffered, that's going to have him sidelined for 4 to 5 weeks, ends up keeping him out week 1 or ends up getting re-aggravated and is an issue throughout the year, I mean, man, talk about the biggest blow you could potentially suffer for this team not named Josh Allen. Khalil Shakir has been the guy for Josh Allen. Despite not having a 1,000-yard year last year, he was the playmaker for Josh Allen in the pass department. He was the reliable target, has been the reliable target. Been one of the best yards after the catch receivers in the entire NFL. And he seems to be only getting better. Has some of the best hands in the league, some of the best feet, and he's impeccable at getting the first tackler off of him. Suffers that ankle injury. It's now a 4 to 5 week window, which means that if we're at the end of that 4 to 5 week window, technically he'd be ready for week 1. But is that window a broad enough window where he's fully ready for week 1? Or is that window just the standard timetable and he could very well be, still dealing with it to the point where he's not 100% and not well enough to go against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football in Buffalo week 1? And it's not just the week 1 game you're concerned about, but it's also the fact that Khalil Shakir is suffering from an ankle injury. This is one of the more twitchy guys on the entire team that relies on his movement more than maybe anybody. That's his bread and butter. Getting away from tacklers, getting up the field. This is what this guy does best. Is this now something that's going to be an area of concern, not just right now, but throughout the year? This is the one I'm exceptionally concerned about because this offense changes dramatically without Khalil Shakir. You already don't know exactly what the Bills' wide receiver room is to begin with. The one thing you've always been certain on, at least the last couple of years, is the dependability of Khalil Shakir. So we're hoping that he is going to be able to have that ankle healed over the next month here and will be good to go week 1. But it is an ankle sprain for Khalil Shakir that has a timetable of 4 to 5 weeks. That would put him right up against week 1. All you can do is hope that it winds up being something that can heal well enough in that timetable to have him ready to go in full capacity for week 1. The other one that really stands out to me too is Tyler Bass. Tyler Bass hasn't been out on that field in like a week. And it's one of the ones I feel like no one's talking about, or at least not as much. I mean, say what you want about Tyler Bass, but you can't just pick a field goal kicker off the street and expect to have the same results. I thought Tyler Bass had a real solid bounce back year last year. There was a lot of talks about him going into the season last year. Nailed that 61-yarder to beat Miami. He was pretty damn solid consistently throughout the year. To see him not out there is concerning, especially for this in long of a period. My God, you had Ray Davis kicking field goals at the blue-red game, or the blue-red game the other day, whatever it is, blue-white game. You had Ray Davis out there kicking field goals. I think we can all agree that if the game comes down to the right leg of Ray Davis, we're in trouble. No offense to Ray Davis. So that's another one, too. Really stands out to me because, like I said, I don't care what your stance is on Tyler Bass. You'd much rather have him than not right now. You much rather would have him than not. And I thought Tyler Bass really came a long way last year. A lot of criticism on Tyler Bass going into 2024, and I thought for the most part he did a great job at answering the call. Now, Mike's saying Z-Bot is freaking himself out. It'll be fine, my man. This is where I wanted to go with this. Believe it or not, I'm trying to keep my calm. I don't think I've been freaking out. But I'm getting a little animated just because the season's right here, and now it's like, this stuff is all mattering now. The contract situation, it matters now. The injury situation, they always matter, but they matter now more than ever. I am not hitting the panic button right now at all about the Buffalo Bills injury situation. I'm not hitting the button at all. In fact, I have really not allowed the extensive list of injuries to bother me more than it should. It's August 4th right now. Yes, that injury list is way longer than you'd like it to be. Would it be that long if the Bills were playing the Ravens this upcoming Sunday? Would that list be that long? Or is the list more precautionary than usual? Are a healthy chunk of these guys on the injury list on there for precautionary reasons as opposed to they 100% would not be playing this upcoming week if they had a game reasons? If I were in charge, whether I'm the head athletic trainer or I'm Sean McDermott, whoever's got the final say, or just the player, I would be taking the precautionary route right now as well. 100%. Why would I further aggravate something bothering me right now on August 4th that I could further worsen today that would give me a higher chance of not being out there a month from today? Why would I do that? No, it's not killing me, but it's, it's noticeable enough to where I don't want to risk further aggravating this more than it needs to be. What would you rather have me out there for? Today at St. John Fisher, or a month from this upcoming weekend under the lights of the Ralph against the Baltimore Ravens? So I have to imagine that this list of injuries would not be as long as it currently is if the Bills had a game this upcoming week. Once again, I'm not writing it off. Is it like completely not ideal? Yeah. It does feel as though the Bills have more players on this injury list at this time of the year than they ever have before. I mean, it might be recency bias, but it certainly feels that way. And it feels like it continues to grow and grow and grow. But I'm not hitting the panic button over it yet, just because missing time right now, I don't think immediately correlates to missing time when it matters most. And I also think all of these players and the organization itself is much more willing to have time missed now than heighten the chances of time missed during the regular season. But there are, of course, some guys on here that do have you concerned because of the longevity of the injury. Tyler Bass has been out for some time now. You want to get as many reps in as possible. I mean, that's a mental position. That position, we know Tyler Bass has the leg. He nailed a 61-yarder essentially as time was expiring to win the football game. We know he's got the leg on him. We all know that if you make it to the NFL at the kicking position, you got a boot on you. That is a mental position. All comes down to how you're able to contain yourself, be in the moment, and get it done. And the more reps you have, the more comfortable you get going into any given year. Not ideal to see Tyler Bass missing the amount of time he has. And then Khalil Shakir, of course. You got to have Khalil Shakir out there. The Bills going up against the Ravens with Khalil Shakir, to me, is significantly different than without, especially when you're factoring in the unknowns right now surrounding whatever the hell is going to happen with James Cook. And then Spencer Brown, too. Spencer Brown limited in practice the past couple of days, but we know he's been dealing with that back issue, and it's felt like it's been more chronic than anything. And that's a major piece right there. You lose either him or Deion Dawkins, the complexion of the entire line changes, and therefore the complexion of the entire offense changes. And then Maxwell Harrison, too. Thank God it wasn't what many were speculating it could have potentially have been. Thank God. And I know that as soon as he went down, it felt like the initial evaluation was for an ACL. He was getting the test done, looking into it. And I know oftentimes perception in this day and age immediately becomes reality, especially when you're seeing every given snap of every given practice. for everyone's sake, more than anybody, for Maxwell Hairston's sake, so glad to see that injury was far less significant than it could have been. Only going to have him out for 3 or 4 weeks or so, and we should see him ready to rock going into the regular season. But now what's that going to look like, injury or not? With Tre'Davious White playing as great as he has during this training camp, the cornerback 2 position has become very interesting. You just invest your first-round draft pick into the fastest guy in the entire NFL Combine, and all of a sudden, off of multiple injuries, multiple teams, Tre'Davious White back in Buffalo, and he's showing up. All you've heard throughout the entire training camp session here is how great Tre'Davious White has been, in addition to how great Christian Benford has been at the cornerback 1 position. If they can solidify that cornerback 2 position, whether it's Maxwell Hairston now or whether it's Tre'Davious White now and Maxwell Hairston in the future, I mean, right now is your best chance to win the whole thing. We'll worry about the future when the future comes. Right now, who can lock down cornerback 2? And I don't think anybody really cares who it is so long as they can do it at a high level. But you'd love to see Tre'Davious White be able to do it. Who wouldn't? What a story that would be if Tre'Davious White, all-pro in Buffalo, first-round draft pick by the Bills, has to leave the team, season-ending injury with the team. The play fell off. He bounces around the league. He suffers a few more injuries, finds his way back to Buffalo at the tail end of his career, and all of a sudden finds a resurgence, gets the starting position, and balls out. How amazing of a story would that be for one of Bills Mafia's all-time favorite players? That would be epic. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Maxwell Hairston, while of course injured currently, wasn't thrusted out onto the field in a capacity that they might not want him to be in just yet. Just because he was drafted in the first round doesn't mean that the Bills defense needs to throw him out there and solely rely on him to shore up the backfield. If they have somebody in position that can do that now, like Tre'Davious White has shown throughout training camp here, that's a benefit, not a disadvantage. That's a positive, not a negative. You get more time for Maxwell Hairston to not only get exposure, but work underneath Benford and work underneath Tre'Davious White, not have to be the guy instantly while still getting high production out of what you currently have. I mean, that's a positive. I know it can be skewed as a negative. Hey, you just drafted this guy in the first round. He's not out there. The last thing the Bills want to be dealing with is another Kaiir Elam situation. If they have it solidified right now and they have the ability to go out on defense in 2025 feeling comfortable with what they have out on the field at cornerback without having to thrust Maxwell Hairston in there just yet, or in certain capacities as opposed to the defiant capacity of being the starting cornerback too, I don't see how that's a bad thing, especially when he's now had a couple of injuries here, one in which has had him out of practice and will have him out of practice for the next couple of weeks. Luckily for the Bills, they're as deep on the defensive side of the ball as they've been, and that's going to matter majorly because we do know with the amount of injuries sustained throughout the last several years, especially on that side of the ball, you can never have too many guys, especially dependable guys. Feels like this year going into this upcoming season, the Bills are as deep as they've been on defense, and that is a real major positive. Got a ton of guys in basically the entire, in all facets, across the entire landscape of the defense. They have depth. And you're hearing nothing but great things coming out about the defensive line. You're really hearing nothing but great things about the secondary. And those are the two areas that you kind of hone in on the most when it comes to these Bills on the defensive side of the ball. Still as excited as ever about what we're going to see out of this defense this year, what we could potentially see. But right now, the injuries, not ideal. Longer list than you'd want it to be, but it's August 4th. It's not September 4th. I'm going to worry about this if and when necessary. I don't think it's necessary right now. The ones that you got to focus in on the most and just be super hopeful, wind up healing up before the season. Khalil Shakir, Tyler Bass. And I just hope that I hope Spencer Brown doesn't have this nagging back problem all year long. Really don't, because he's just too pivotal of a piece. But I'm not hitting the panic button just yet. we'll see if we have to hit the panic button over this James Cook situation as the weeks unfold here. I mean, we'll watch. I'm not ready to yet, just because I don't know what the play is here. I don't know what to make of it. And I don't know what the angle is here on his end. But I don't think it's panic time yet. Panic time might be when he misses week 1, but if that were to happen, I think it'd be more confusion than panic. I don't know. I just can't foresee it. But can't rule anything out. Didn't foresee him holding in 3 days ago, and now that's the reality. So something to monitor. And speaking of monitors, we will have Hard Knocks on our monitors, on our televisions, tomorrow evening, 9 p.m. on HBO and HBO Max. The Buffalo Bills' first episode of Hard Knocks airs, and I will be joining you to recap the whole thing, all the little things that we watch from beginning to end. We'll talk about it on a special Hard Knocks recap edition of the Smoke Break. I will keep you posted. It will be on either late tomorrow night or early Wednesday morning. So just keep an eye on YouTube for when the scheduled stream is up. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'll keep you updated on there. But either way, we'll be talking Hard Knocks next episode, whether it's tomorrow night or Wednesday morning. But in the meantime, this is going to do it for this Monday evening edition of the Smoke Break. Day 10 of training camp in the books for the Buffalo Bills. Only 2 more sessions. 4 training camp remain. Then you have preseason game number 1 this weekend, and then we're less than a month away. But in the meantime, we look forward to training, or we look forward to Hard Knocks. I look forward to talking about it with you. I look forward to learning more about this James Cook situation. Hopefully we know a little bit more as the days go on than we do now, but remains to be seen. Once again, as always, thanks so much for tuning in to the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel. Much love to each and every one of you. Appreciate you so much. We'll talk to you after Hard Knocks. But until then, much love as always. And go Bills.